Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're not going to do any histories of any distilleries or anything like that. We're going to take a look at some of the bottles that are behind me on the shelf, because we're going to be moving office soon, so all these bottles are going to get moved around, and some of you have commented that you wanted to see what these bottles are. Let's dive into it then. So let's just drop this light down a bit so that we get easier access to them. So the first bottles that I'll pull out are a series of Macallan 18-year-old sherry oaks. This is the 2018, and I've got two bottles here of the 2021. We did an unboxing on Instagram, so if you're not watching us on Instagram, make sure you get on Instagram because we do reels and stuff pretty much every day. So the 18-year-old sherry oak is a series that I absolutely love. And one that I've got quite a connection to as a business, because last year we sold a vertical of 18-year-old Macallans for a guy called Matthew Robson, and his dad bought him a bottle of 18-year-old Macallan every year for his birthday, and he eventually sold, well, we eventually sold the bottles for him for just over £44,000. So I had a little boy born in 2018, so you know what, I'm carrying on the same. We've got the 2018, the 2021s are down there, and I've just ordered just bought the 2019 and the 2020 releases from Phil at the Whisky shop in Manchester. So thanks for Phil for that. So these are the first three bottles. So they are really pretty much an investment. They're going to be bought until I've got a vertical of 18 and my son's 18, and then he can spend the money on God knows what's going to be popular in 18 years time. But there's the first three. Let's see if we can pull out any more Macallans, because we've got a few more here. This is a 10-year-old 1970s bottling, and we'll stick a picture up on the screen now of this bottle, because this bottle was unusual because it had a magnificently high fill level. It just looked fake. It screamed fake. The bottle code underneath is technically wrong. The level was absurd. There's some marks on the label, so it's just like a bottle that says fake, fake, fake. But if you know enough about the industry and you've been around this industry long enough, you soon realise that the whiskey industry in the 1970s, it wasn't what it was today. These fill levels, so that magnificently high fill level, was probably the bottling crew, and at the time it was probably thought of a fantastic thing. Bloody hell, he's getting a really good bottle of whiskey, isn't he? And then in today's world, in 2021, everyone's just paranoid about every little thing. And the fact is, we opened this bottle to prove that weird things can happen with old bottles of whiskey. You can get different screw cap combinations, you can get different bottle code combinations. It was a weird cottage industry back in the 70s, 80s, even 90s and 2000s. So that was an interesting bottle that we bought and opened, and obviously we've been giving away on this channel. We've got some more Macallan back here. This is a really nice set. This is all going to be opened as well. We're going to do a video and sort of like pass this round all our people. This is a set of three Macallans, 10-year-old cask strength, and the Elegancia 1991, and these are all sort of like third bottles, so 333ml bottles. So those of you who are on our reviewing radar, No Nonsense Whiskey, Whiskey Wednesday, all of you have a lot, these are going to be coming out at some point in a video. Where do we go now? We've got an empty Jubilee box here. Unfortunately, there's no bottle in this. The Jubilee bottling was released with two boxes, and the first one damaged the capsules and bits, so they re-released it with another bottle, and this is one of the original boxes there. Boom, let's go on to something completely different. We've got a nice Scotch Malt Whisky Society bottle here. This is 59.2 Teenanic, I think it might be. Again, this one's open, and we've been enjoying this, distilled 1980, bottled 1992, one of the earlier SMWS bottlings, and as a series, I think this SMWS series is massively underrated. And same with the company itself. This company is just floated, so you can now buy shares in the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. So if you're an investor and you want to invest in whiskey, go and buy Diageo shares, go and buy Scotch Malt Whisky Society shares. It's a lot safer than having bottles on your shelf, because you end up opening them and drink your investment. Speaking of other open bottles that we've got here, we've got two Obans. We've got the 1970s bottle, which is this one, and the 1980s bottle, both 12 years old. And these we bought these to do the round robin series with, to pass them around all our, you know, again, No Nonsense Whiskey, Whiskey Wednesday, Swedish Whiskey Girl, all of you creators out there that deserve some nice whiskey. But the problem is that we found is that we can't post them easily because these corks are absolutely massive in here and we don't know what to do. So if anyone's got any suggestions on what we can do with these, so how we can pass them around everybody, get in touch and let us know, because so far as I can think is we're just going to have to decant them into other bottles and then ship you the bottle and this as at the same time. But it would be interesting to do a 70s and 80s comparison, and this bottle itself is something that I quite like from a geek level, because this is what the Port Ellen Queen's Visit was bottled into. This is the same decanter that was used. A special bottle wasn't used for that bottle, even though now it's a £72,000 bottle, isn't it? And this is the decanter that they used to put it into. So there's two more. We're kind of thinning it down a bit now, aren't we? So next one, Midleton Very Rare. This is a lovely bottle, and again, it's one that we're going to open. We've got content planned around this bottle, as you will soon see on the channel. But like, you know, 2021 release, you know, how much money do they want to spend on a box? Loads! I mean, it's lovely presentation, and I do think this Very Rare series is a massively underrated series as well. So that is the theme of what we're going to be talking about in a future video. But again, this one will be opened and will be sent around everybody on YouTube. And you know, on that point, we're looking for people that have got whiskey blogs as well. So if you've got a blog about whiskey and you want to review some of these bottles, get in touch, get your name in the comments, we'll DM you, and then we can take it from there. What else have we got? We've done some nice bottles, so let's do some nasty bottles. White and Mackay, Royal Marriage, Charles and Diana. These have always had the worst possible seals on them. This is completely corroded. The whiskey inside is like you just wouldn't want to go drinking that, would you? But it's too nice to sort of throw away, so it's sat there and it's like, yeah, maybe it's like a booby prize or something. Another nasty bottle that we've got here is Whisky. So this is produced and bottled by the Qingdao Winery, the People's Republic of China. Yeah, it explains itself. Again, if you want a dram of this specifically, get in the comments and tell me that you want a dram, and we'll probably send you some, because yeah, leave it at that. Another Macallan that we missed here, we've got the 1851 inspiration. This is from one of the interesting series of bottlings that Macallan did. There is a review in Whisky magazine that we've got, hopefully here. Is this the one? One of the things I like doing is buying back issues of Whisky magazine and things like this, because there's some really interesting tasting notes. And if it's not in this one, we'll put it up on the screen. But there was a special in the year 2000, I think it must be in a different one. Anyway, we'll put it on screen now. In the year 2000, Whisky magazine did a tasting of all the best Macallan you could ever think of. They tasted the 1926 60-year-old, they tasted the Millennium decanter, they tasted all sorts. And they tasted the 1861 inspiration. This is the 51, not the 61. And the reviewers were David Robertson, who was the master distiller of Macallan at the time, and he is now Rare Whisky 101. And the other reviewer was Michael Jackson, the very famous and very well-respected whiskey critic. And the interesting point about that whole review is that the whiskey that they unanimously decreed the best wasn't the £1.5 million worth of 1926 60-year-old. It was the £600 bottle of 1861 inspiration, which has a funny story attached to it. I'm probably going to get this slightly wrong, but the Macallan distillery bought some bottles to base this inspiration series on, and the 1861 bottle turned out to be a fake, but it was released to the market already. So the whiskey that was unanimously agreed to be better than the £1.5 million bottle of whiskey of 1926 60-year-old was a £600 bottle of whiskey based on a fake bottle of Macallan. Go figure. The whiskey market's a mad place. Some other bottles here, some nice old bottles. These are 1970s bottles of Glenfarclas 8-year-old. This one's at 70 proof, so is this one. And this is quite an unusual bottling format. This is 40 fluid ounces, so 1.13 litres. So I think it must have been for the American market, bottled by Grant Bonding Company Limited, and then this one again, Grant Bonding Company Limited. So these are lovely bottles. Now these have been open a very long time. These were gifted to me by someone who's, you know, these were their favourite whiskies. So these might have already been open 20, 25 years. So they've lost their oomph, you know, they don't have that sort of power on the palate that they used to, but it's still very nice to enjoy. Go on then, what's your favourite Glenfarclas release? And whoever tells me their favourite Glenfarclas release and a good reason for that, will get a dram of that to try. Another sensational bottle that we've got back here is this Ardbeg 1970s bottling. It's probably a 10-year-old, it would have had a slip label on here. 26 and 2/3 fluid ounces and 80 proof. Lovely 1970s bottlings. There's so many of these ones with fake labels on, but this is completely genuine. Again, the spirit's being tried. It's being tried by pretty much everyone. Sekinder down at the Whisky Exchange, Angus at Whisky Fun's done a review on it. I think Whisky Wednesday have done a review. Phil at No Nonsense Whisky have done a review on it. You get the point. We like opening bottles. We talk about investment a lot on this channel, but we do like opening and sharing these bottles. And this ironically says no longer in existence. And if you want to learn more about the Ardbeg distillery, head over to the Macallan website, because you'll find a really interesting in-depth look at the history of the Ardbeg distillery. Where next? We're coming down to the empties. We've got two more here. Two more full bottles. Tamnolluvan Glenlivet, 75% proof, 26 and 2/3 fluid ounces. So that's a 1970s bottling. And again, we've got an Abelard Glenlivet, a 9-year-old here. And again, that's got a broken capsule. So these will be opened and shared at some point. So keep in touch with those. And again, shameless plug here, if you're looking to sell your whiskey or you're looking to buy bottles of whiskey, head over to the Macallan website. We've got the marketplace and we can sell your bottles of whiskey for a price that you cannot achieve at auction. So if you want more information, head over to shop.macallan.com and click on sell your bottles. But in the meantime, we'll go back here and let's do some more open bottles that are deceased. Ballantine, 17-year-old, 75 centilitres, that was lovely. Auchentoshan, again, another 1970s bottle, completely empty. Wild Turkey, 101 proof. You can pick up some bourbons at auction for an absolute steal. Oh, Grandad's one of my favourites. But, you know, some of these bottles, they just have something different about them that the modelling bottlings don't. The Glen Turret, 12-year-old. Highland Park Bumpy, Kilila, 17-year-old, Connoisseur's Choice, 1969, 17-year-old, awesome whiskey. And a lot of these empty bottles, along with the bottles that you'll see all along the top here and down here, are from when I ran a company called Cheaper by the Dram, and we took these bottles of whiskey like this Kilila, we had them broken up, bottled all officially in Scotland, etc., and sold them. And funnily enough, not that many people bought them. Even though they were priced remarkably well at the time, people just didn't want to put their money where their mouth was, it seems. They like talking about old and rare whiskey, but they didn't necessarily want to buy old and rare whiskey. We do have some left in stock that we might be putting back into the shop on the Macallan website. So if you'd like to see those on the shop again, get in the comments and tell us, because if you tell us that you want them and the remaining stock to go online for sale again, we'll get them up for sale. Right, we're getting towards the end of it now. Oh wow, okay, two really old bottles now. This was fantastic, Crabbie's 3-star, completely dead and buried now. So I think it's a 1940s, 1950s bottle, absolutely stunning. And again, we've got this Jameson's, it's a 3-star. I don't know the exact date of this, I think it might be a 1930s or a 1940s bottling perhaps. Cork's gone at the top, but it's still intact. And again, this will be passed around as a round robin. I just think it's fascinating trying these whiskies, not necessarily it's interesting from a taste perspective, but I also find like there's a strange, like, weird time machine effect going on. You know, you're tasting whiskey that was produced 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. You know, the barley was grown so long ago. It's kind of like it's tasting the past. Anyway, that's my romantic notions out the way. And let's see, because we're nearly at the end of the bottles. We've got here a Beresford Solera Sherry, from the 1914 Solera. So that Solera was started in 1914. So this probably was bottled in the 60s or 70s or 80s. It doesn't mean that it was released or from the 1914 vintage. And we're going to do a big video soon about sherry casks, because pretty much everything that you think about sherry casks is wrong. The term sherry casks is a complete misnomer, and it always has been. But that's ready to be opened, but I'm not holding out too much hope for that. Old Pulty 17 box, that was a cheaper by the dram bottle. We've got the 12-year-old box from the Highland Park, the Oban, of course, as well, that we talked about earlier, and the box from the Bowmore Dumpy. And what else have we got? Bowmore Dumpy, we talked about that in the last video. We gave a dram of that away to somebody, and this is one of my own labels. So this is at Market Limited, we sell casks of whiskey to people, and one of the things of being able to buy a cask is that you get to get whiskey out of your cask, and rather than just getting, let's give you an indication here. This is a 1990s Ardbeg sample that someone got out of their private cask that we sold for them, and this was directly from Carden Head / the Springbank Distillery. So normally when you get a bottle of whiskey out of your own private cask, it comes duty stamped, of course, but with nothing more on it than, I'll just cover up that label, than just a little white label on the front of it. And I kind of think that's a bit rubbish. You know, if you're buying a cask, you want to get the pleasure of enjoying it. And that's why we had these labels designed, so that when our customers take whiskey out of their casks, you get nice looking labels, and we've got different colours for each of the different regions. You can see one of the gold ones there. That's for the Speyside region. This blue colour here is for the Isla region. So yeah, we just thought it would be a nice thing to do. And then the last thing that we've got, or one of the last things that we've got on here, is a Lenci figure. Now you might be thinking, what on earth is that doing there? But this is worth about £2,500, because one of the other things that I do, we value and sell antiques, and antiques is sort of like a bit of a broad brush term for like any luxury good. So classic cars, watches, jewellery. We sell all the trappings of status symbols, or all the status symbols that you can think of in 2021. And people say, isn't that strange to be selling whiskey and antiques? Well, to be frank, it's not, because the same person who's spending 20 grand on a black Bowmore is also likely to be the same person who's going to be selling or buying a 15 grand watch, or buying a 10 grand handbag, or 15 grand pair of earrings. Whiskey is now a status symbol. It's sort of in the same sort of trappings of those sort of things. And then the last thing really that I can show you that's on the shelves are all of these samples. So you can see this shelf here of samples, and this shelf here of samples. These are all from casks that we've helped sell. So another one of the things that we do here, we help people exit their cask investments. So we've helped people sell hundreds of casks, millions of pounds worth of casks of Macallans, Bowmores, Ardbegs, Bracladys, Arons. And one of the key things is to get samples from the casks for quality control purposes. It's also good retrospectively in case there's ever a problem. One instance that happened a couple of years ago now, a customer had their cask regauged. We sold the cask based on the details of the regauge. About a year and a half later, that cask was then moved to a different warehouse to be bottled, and there was a monumentally different volume of liquid left in there, and it was a completely different profile. So we ended up in a bit of litigation, shall we say, and it turned out after a bit of detective work, because we had the sample, that the distillery had regauged the wrong cask, and therefore the whole sale was based on the wrong regauge details in the first instance. So in that instance, the sample proved massively valuable because it saved anyone losing out. The distillery were able to see that they'd made a problem and made an issue, and they rectified all of that. So there we go. That's pretty much it. You've exhausted the back bar. Oh, you're going to be picky, aren't you? There's those two there. There's a sample here. That's the Bimber sample that we're due to post out to somebody. We're just waiting for the shipment out now. And then we've got a decanter of mystery whiskey here. So I don't know what this is. It went into the decanter at some point. You'll see on our Instagram that we pour glasses of whiskey to put in props, and this is the whiskey. Or coloured liquid, as it probably is now. So there we go. It's taken a long time, sorry, but there was a lot of bottles to go through. Get in the comments, get some chances to get some of those drams, and join us in a couple of weeks' time for a new video.